Your pattern might come with seam allowances for flat felt seams, but you would rather not do them. Your pattern might also have long sleeves, but you prefer short. I am showing you these things today, plus collar construction on a shirt pattern, and all these things can work also for women's patterns. So keep watching. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina. This is Lifting Pins and Needles, a channel all about sewing, limitless sewing. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking time out of your day to spend with me. I have promised I was going to show you the items of clothing I have made my son during this month for Sew Man Pants Challenge. It's in its 3rd year, brainchild of Vivian from Stitches and Seams, and along with myself and Elizabeth and Natita, we help co-host. There's also been some fun ambassadors, Kira, Myra and Andrew, who have helped us spread the word about the challenge, and we've had amazing entries on Instagram. Every single entry has the chance to win amazing prizes. There's still today and tomorrow to get your entry in on Instagram with hashtag SewManPants and tagging us. I started the month of September on this channel showing you my first project for this challenge, and that was a pair of jeans for my dad. I used the pattern from Thread Theory Designs called Quadra Jeans. Thread Theory Designs have many men's patterns. I would say it's the indie pattern company that has the most patterns available for men. There are a few there available for women as well. I haven't tried those yet. So it's a pattern that's well known to me. I've made it twice. I have a full review of this pattern on the channel, so I'm not going to touch on general aspects. If you want to know more about this pattern, you can head over to that video I made last year for my husband's pants. There he appears headless. He didn't want his face online, you know, but anyway, you get to see how they fit and everything. And just recently I made a pair for my dad. Both of these jeans have been made with non-stretch denim and they're perfect. They fit them, you know, very great successful projects. The pattern also says you can make it with stretch denim that has maximum 2% elastane content. I know at this time my son is very anti non-stretch. He will decline to wear pants that don't have stretch, although he did in the past. I think during the last year he just doesn't want to wear them anymore. So if I want to make him things, I really want to make sure I make the right choices that he likes so that he wears what I make, you know. So I've made my son 2 quadra jeans, both with stretch content in the fabric, and they've turned out very well. This pattern comes with like 2 patterns within the pattern, one draft for waists of 26 to 38 inches and the other one from 40 to 50. The approach I took to choosing my son's size is not conventional. I didn't just measure him and look at the size chart. I did choose the size in conjunction with other factors. One of them being he wants them to be really slim fit. He likes slim fit jeans, closer fit. I took into consideration that the pattern has 4 inches of ease around the waist, about 2.5 inches of ease around the hips. I'm also working with stretch fabric. So just thinking and looking and measuring, he's ready to wear jeans as well, that I know that's how he wants them to fit. I came up with sizes. So I made him a 28 waist blended to a 30-inch hip. Now this process took me a few minutes. I had to think about it. I know he wants them to be nicely fitted to his waist. He doesn't like to stretch out his belt that much when pants are too big, you know. Kids have a lot of requirements and it's not that easy to sew for them, at least now. In the past, I would sew whatever and he would just put it on and, you know, but now he's got quite clear aesthetic preferences that I need to respect. If I want the clothes I make for him to be worn, you know, I'm gonna go through all the effort and then he's not gonna wear it. So that's what I did. I also made the back pockets a little bit smaller because I think the pockets that come in the pattern for adult sizes just look too big on the pants I made, so I just made them a tad smaller and I didn't add on the coin pocket. The first pair I made a black in bengaline, and I know it's not a traditional fabric to make pants with, but they are very stretchy. It is a structured fabric and it's very appropriate for bottoms, and I know women love pants in bengaline, so why shouldn't my son? So I made these and I made them in a day. I was very rushed. He needed them urgent for the next day. So I can say this project I did not enjoy that much because I was super stressed. I was on a time crunch. So suddenly from one week to the next, the black pants I made him last year were like so short he couldn't wear them anymore. Like he put them on one day and I was like, oh my gosh, my son, he can't go out like that. So I had to make these very fast. I know you can't see details on black, it's very hard to see, but they have all the details, you know, the zipper, everything the same as jeans, only that this is not denim. And I made fun pocket linings inside with stripy cotton fabric. I think he really enjoys that. And on the inside I made bias binding to go with the zipper fly facing. I put my zipper flies always the same way, no matter what the pattern says. If I'm making any brand of any pant, of any pattern, I have a way that I like to do it. And I wouldn't say I devised a method, but I came up with a method that's a mix of a bunch of methods that I like and that I find easier. I have a full video tutorial on the channel all about it, and I'll link it up there and down below if you want to see how I do it. I basically close my eyes and skip all that area of the instructions when I come to that stage, because I know I want to do it the way I want to do it. And if the seam allowance is here on the crotch front 5/8 of an inch, then I have to make no adjustments at all. I can just make it, you know? And that is the case with this pattern. It's 5/8 of an inch. At the back, you can see some belt loops, the yoke, the pockets, very hard to see. He's extremely happy with these. He's worn them a few times. These are church pants, by the way. For his regular life, he does not wear jeans. He likes joggers. I need to make some of those too. So these are the pants he wears like when he dresses up semi-formal, because he doesn't really dress up formal. So that's how they look inside. And it was a nice make in the end, because when he tried them on, they fit perfect. I did try them on him before putting on the waistband just to be sure, and everything was looking really good. So that gave me confidence to then just go ahead and cut the second pair that I'd planned in a dark blue denim. These are also meant to be used as semi-formal wear, and that is why I decided not to do like golden or any top stitching that is going to pop up, because that just makes them look more casual, in my opinion. So I have this dark blue denim. This is a stretch denim, quite thick, I would say, when I touch other denims compared to other projects I've made before. And all the top stitching was done in navy, so you can't read, it's not like a detail on the pants. And when he wears them, they're stretchy, they're comfortable, and they just look like a pair of navy blue pants that will go with his shirts that he has. But I know the pattern fits, so I just went ahead with the same one. And yeah, I'm sure you're not going to see the details again. But yeah, this, when I took it with more time, I wasn't on a time crunch, so it was more enjoyable than the first. I have kept using the same lining fabric I've been using for a lot of my projects, and it's a cowboy print Alexander Henry cotton that I found in the Bolivian street markets for like $1, like 3 yards. So it's not really fabric I would use to make outer garments. So it gets used a lot for pockets and bias binding and stuff. So that's what I've done there, and it's super colorful. The way I do my pockets with all the understitching and the top stitching means that the lining is not ever gonna pop out, but it's still fun, a fun look inside. The back, the yoke, the pockets, it's got all the details, the top stitching in the inseam. You know, it's just hard to see that because of the color choice. But actually he didn't need a pair of blue pants, and if he has a pair of blue pants and a pair of black pants for church, he can get away with that, you know. That's all he needs, and then we can change up the outfits by having a lot of shirts to go on top, you know. So those are the jeans. I'm done with them. I hope they will last. I'm hoping they last around 6 months, hopefully. He's growing very fast. He's 12 and a half, but he's been going through some growth spurts. He reaches me like right there. And yeah, he's growing, and I need to accept that, although I would want him to stay little for longer. You know, he's my baby. Anyway, I have to adapt to his growth, and I'm super happy I can sew for him clothes that are gonna fit this stage. So I'm not too attached to these projects, although I still went ahead and did it as nice as I could. I know they're not going to last. I then went ahead and made 2 shirts. I've had a lot of inspiration from Vivian from Stitches and Seams. She's been making the Fairfield button-up from Thread Theory Designs as well for her husband since last year. I think last year she made 2, and now this year she's been making, I think, 4. And we chat every day, we share our sewing, and it's just been super inspiring. I bought this pattern initially thinking for my husband. Last year they had a 40% sale. I think it was around Christmas, I believe. Anyway, that's when I got the pattern. But actually my husband doesn't need any shirts. He has a lot of shirts. He doesn't need them. So actually for Soul Man Pants this year, he got nothing. You know, I need to prioritize, and actually Martin needed the clothes, and my husband's happy to wait until I make him one eventually. Looking at the size chart, I realized, hey, this is working for my son now. It wouldn't have worked last year, but this year he actually fits into the sizing with a few adjustments. This shirt pattern comes with 2 views, so the difference between them is what is going on in the back. View A has a little box pleat on the back, and view B has darts on the back, making it a slimmer fit. It comes in sizes extra small to 4 extra large, but it's also separated in 2 different drafts. So there's one draft for extra small to XXL, and then there's another one that is meant to be for larger figures from M to 4XL. Now as the sizes get bigger, so do the heights, and that was like a little bit of an issue for me. I chose a size medium. And again, same as how I did with the Quadra jeans, I didn't just measure my son and look at a size. No, I went and got his favorite ready-to-wear shirt that I bought this year that actually fit him. The only thing I had to do with it was shorten it. I went and measured that shirt. I measured across the chest, across the waist, the hips. I measured the shoulder, width. And these are all measurements that are in the pattern. And then I compared. I actually cut the pattern and measured, and that's how I chose a size medium. Not because his body's a size medium, but because that's the ease that he likes. He does not like slim fit at all. He wants baggy, and he wants comfy, and he does not want anything super tight on him. And I know men really don't like baggy sometimes, but growing kids, I've seen them, they like wear oversized shirts, and yeah, I go with the flow. I want to make what he wants to wear as long as it's not too big. But hey, I made the size medium, had to shorten it because the size medium is drafted for a man that is 5'10". He's 5'6". In Up Close and So Personal, you're going to see how I converted all the seams of this pattern from flat felt seams to not flat felt seams. I didn't want to go through all that effort of doing flat felt seams when these items are not going to last. I know I always want longevity in projects, and actually these projects get laundered quite a bit. Every time he wears them, they get washed. But I know they're not going to last. I'm not looking at a project that is going to last 2 or 3 years. I'm looking at a project that's going to last 6 months. So I want to have a really nice shirt that looks amazing, but I want to simplify it as much as I can. And that's why flat felt seams go, and actually you need to change seam allowances on all the pattern pieces. So I'm showing you how I did that. He also wanted shorter sleeves. Long sleeves don't go, and I had to true the area there to have a proper hem. I'm showing you how to do that. And actually you can do this for yourself if you're making shirts or blouses and you want a different length of a hem. It also applies. The collar construction I am showing, and don't be put off that it's for a men's pattern. It's the same thing if you're making a woman's one. What I did there is exactly what I do to my ones, so it can still be useful for you. So let's go ahead into Up Close and So Personal. If you're enjoying the content and what I show you brings value to your sewing, please consider subscribing to this channel by tapping on that little red thing there on the screen. You can also tap on the bell and all notifications so that you get notified when a new video goes up and you don't miss out.
What can I do? Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. The sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me.
This is the left front, the right front, and the back. And this is drafted for flat felt seams. This means that the back side seams are just 1/4 inch. And the front side seams are 5/8 inch. but I want them both to be 3/8 of an inch because I'm not doing flat filled seams. That line there is the size M that I'm making, and I just added onto that to have 3/8 of an inch there. And now this seam allowance from the front here, there's actually a notch there for the seam allowance of 5/8, but I'm gonna reduce that to 3/8. So adding a bit on the back, taking a bit off the front ones, and then I'll have both 3/8 of an inch seam allowances because I don't want to do flat filled seams. There's a shorten and lengthen line there on all the pattern pieces for the front and for the back. So I've just cut that and overlapped, and I'm taking out of the length 3 and 5/8 of an inch to make it appropriate for my tween while still keeping the curved hems and all the features. Now boys are not that shaped, so you don't really need to true out much here on the sides when you do that overlap. Same as there, like the difference is so minimal. The arm side to the sleeve is also drafted to have flat filled seams. So the arm side of the shirt has 3/8 of an inch there added for that area, but for the sleeve it's got 5/8 of an inch. So you're meant to fold once at 1/4 of an inch and then align the folded bit to the raw bit there and then sew at 3/8 of an inch. But I'm not doing flat filled seams, so I'm basically getting rid of 1/4 of an inch from all the top there of the sleeve, all that curved area. I'm going to cut away 1/4 of an inch so that both can be just sewn together, raw edges together at 3/8 of an inch. The other change I'm making to the sleeve is he wants short sleeves. Long sleeve shirts really don't get worn here at all, so I've compared to a ready to wear and sort of figured out a length that he likes. That is the length there, and I've added on 1 inch for the hem and another 3/8 of an inch for the first fold. So the first fold is going to be at 3/8 and then the second fold at 1 inch to hem. You can see how the sleeve tapers in, right? I put some paper there behind so I can cut this first, fold it like a hem would be, and then I'm going to have a shape like that so that the hem makes sense. So I cut the length of the sleeves I want. That's where I added extra amount on the sides. I've got my paper on the, the wrong side. I'm just going to fold this like I'm going to fold the fabric when I cut it. So the first fold is going to be at 3/8. And I'm just folding on the line that I made, and the second fold is going to be at 1 inch. So that's actually where I'm going to stitch. When I turn this, I've got my hem, right? So you can see the original shape of the sleeve. Now I'm going to cut this there. And the same on the other side. Now when I open this, my sleeve has been trued for short sleeves. You can do this to a blouse that has long sleeves but you would like short, and that's just the way that the hem there is trued. Now if you look at a pattern with short sleeves and a hem, you'll probably see that shape going on, and that allows the hem to have the correct width and it not to pucker. To cut the collar pieces, I just got a piece of fabric and interfaced the whole piece, easier than cutting out separately. This pattern has separate pieces for interfacing of the collars and the stand, but I prefer to have the whole piece interfaced. I think it's just more structured that way. So I don't actually use the pieces separately. I just interface the whole thing, and I have the upper collar, the under collar, and the 2 collar stands there. That's all interfaced, and it just makes it so much easier. I labeled this the under collar there with pen, and on the other side I put upper collar there. All the collar pieces for the Fairfield are sewn with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so that's what I've done there. And I like to intersect these because it reinforces the point. Now to help myself while I was cutting and interfacing, I put C there as a reference so that that's where the collar stand would go. Well, I made a mistake anyway and sewed it the other way. As you can see there's a stitching line that I had to remove because I went and sewed this like that, So even if I take all these marking precautions, I still sometimes get distracted and sew it the other way. And this happens when you're doing collars. I would suggest you not watching a movie and just concentrate on this step. Something I wasn't doing. So I've just unsewn that. The under collar is slightly smaller than the upper collar. So when I was sewing, I put under collar facing up on the machine and this one down because the feed dogs are going to help everything ease in there smoothly, you know. So I don't clip into these points. I'm just going to fold them towards the under collar. Just take that and fold it like that and put my fingers inside and then just keep that really nice and snug, and then just hope for a really crisp point. Very nice. And I can always improve this slightly with a scissors. I'm very gentle doing this. There we go. So I do that on both sides, and I still need to press this and improve this, but I think it's a nice point without having to clip and make this part of the collar weaker by doing that. You know, with succession of washes, if you don't have enough fabric in there, this might rip, and it would be such a shame to lose all the work by having these areas start ripping, you know. So there's my points. I'm batch sewing these two shirts, so I have both collars semi-assembled. So that is what I've already sewn there. It's all been pressed and top stitched with a 1/4 inch. I'm using my 1/4 inch foot for everything to assemble this collar because it'll give me a really precise finish. Now I have both collar stands sandwiching the collar. And there's a central notch that matches the notches inside the collar there. All the notches, there's 4 notches that should match up there. And this notch here matches the end of the collar right there on the collar stand. And that's on both sides. To sew this, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot. But I have hand basted this together within that seam allowance. So what I've done there is narrower than the 1/4 inch seam allowance I'm going to use. This is going to help me have a really precise finish. I think pins get in the way, so I've done that for both of these collars. I have sewn that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and on this curve I've clipped it in this way so that when I can turn it around, it's not going to be bulky. See how reducing that amount of bulk there gives a really nice finish on this curve. This is the left side of the front, the left front. This is where the buttonholes are going to go, and this is the inside that has its own interfacing piece that's been fused on. This is the top part of the neckline, that's why the shape has been trued that way. So that has to be folded onto itself and then folded again. And this is not supposed to match up there, don't think it's a mistake. So I have pressed this really neatly all the way to the bottom, and now I have to sew on the edge there with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that is gonna form a pin tuck. And if you go and look at some shirts that are ready to wear, you will see that. And what that pin tuck is gonna do, so let's pretend these pins are sewn. When you open this, it's going to look like that. So it's going to have that little pin tuck there. It's going to be super neat. And at the same time, it encloses the raw area of that button band. So it's going to look super neat. Okay, so I've sewn my pin tuck, and now what this does is you open it and the pin tuck goes pressed to the side. This is the center. And look how great they drew this pattern, like everything is perfect there on the neckline. Super nice. And now I'm going to go ahead and do another row of top stitching there on this other side. And on the inside, it's just so neat, so nice. I love it. I have the neckline folded right sides together. This is the center back marked with a pin, and here are the two button bands. This one here is the right one, this is just a simple one, and this is the one that has the pin tuck, the left. And they are drafted differently, but then they end up having the same length. And then one will just overlap each other. You know, this is the one that's going to have the buttonholes. It's going to go on top of this one. Now it's just time to put on the collar stand onto this part. I have the collar hand basted onto the shirt. This is the wrong side of the shirt there. Basically, right side of the stand to the right side of the shirt there. As you can see, I've basted on the edge within the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it's right up there to the edge, very neat. I have sewn that on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've taken out the basting stitch. I have done lots and lots of clips so that it can turn the curve. And I have started folding this up to match that seam. I always start around the middle, folding up and pinning to meet that seam there. When I've pinned, I hand baste again. When all that is hand basted, then I can sew this on, and I usually start around there and I go all the way, do the curve, come back, little curve there, and then finish there. And then I don't back tack, I leave the thread and I pull it through to the other side and do a little knot right there. I'd love to know if you've sewn for the men in your family, what you think about doing that. I know so many people are against it, or they just want to sew for themselves. And I would have probably been in the same boat a few years ago, but since I've started sewing for my son, I felt super happy to be able to create items for the people that I love. So let me know, is it in your plans? Have you done it? What has been your experience? Do you find it harder? I find it not harder, but I do have to switch my mindset a little bit in choosing sizes, fabrics, and just be a bit more open-minded as how they like to wear their clothes rather than how I want them to wear them. And that's a bit hard to do when I'm used to making all the decisions based on what I like. When I sew for them, I need to always consider what they want, what they like, how they want things to fit. And I find that sometimes super different to what we do for ourselves. So let me know, have you done it? Do you want to do it? I highly recommend. It's fun. Martin had seen some tropical shirts made out of rayon in the shops. They were around $50 to $60, the price, and I thought that was ridiculous. And I told him, I've got fabric like that in my stash, I can make it. He's like, fine, you know, he's easygoing. He's always accepting items of clothing I make for him. So he was excited. He looked in my stash and he chose this print. Now I had bought this print in 2 colorways. I have another one with black and green. I'll put a picture here of a jumpsuit I made in a different colorway. And I had this one reserved there for me, but actually this is perfect for him. So he could just have this fabric, right? It's hard to see the details because of the print, but I've sewn it the same way. I've sewn the gray one. You would have seen hints on the up close and so personal. Collar stand, everything. It's really always super weird for me to start putting buttonholes on the left, and then when I sew them I feel like I'm just all mixed up in my head because I'm usually doing it the other way around for when I make my things button up or button down. If you notice, I make a lot of shirts, blouses and dresses with buttons down the front. I like that. So switching sides is a bit of a mental hurdle for me, but that's fine, you know. The yoke is 2 pieces and it's put together with the burrito method, so the shoulder seam is enclosed as well as in here, super clean. And because he doesn't like slim fit, I chose VUA that has a little box split here at the back that you can't see. Super nice. He has worn it yesterday and he says it's his favorite shirt ever. I think he just wants rayon now. He's like, it's so flowy and it's so fresh, and he just kept, you know, yeah, he really enjoyed it. And he's got his tropical shirt Mama made for less, and with a fabric I like. I actually like this. I think it's more subdued. The ones he'd seen had like red splashes of like palms and like, yeah, it was too much. I think this one's a bit more subdued in the print. And then I made another one in a chambray that he chose himself when we went fabric shopping. I wanted him to be involved, you know. So he chose this gray, and it's got a lovely sort of I don't know what it is, but it's part of the fabric, part of the weave, little tiny specks of lighter gray there. And this one was easier to sew, of course. That one, the other one was a bit more challenging, more wiggly, and you know, still nice. But this one, I mean, sewing these fabrics is amazing. It's so easy. Cutting it, everything is just really enjoyable. And you can see the details more of the collar stand, you know, there are the buttons. This is the left one that has a pin tuck detail. I showed you how it's done. I think it's really elegant, really classy, and it gives a really nice inside finish there. And these sleeves are top stitched there. I didn't do that with the rayon. I didn't really think it was necessary. You wouldn't have seen it because of all the print as well, so I didn't top stitch the sleeves on the other one. And at the back there's a little box pleat there. And the hem is a typical hem of men's shirts that is curved, and my son really likes that. And on the inside I've just sewn and serged, no flat felt seams anywhere, and there you can see the hem lies really nice because all this area of the seam was trued. So yeah, I'm extremely happy with these. So batch making these was really helpful. I was basically doing the same process as twice. I only had to change my thread for top stitching on this one for black, but actually inside it's all sewn in dark gray like this one, because I could get away with it, you know. So super fun projects to make. I am so proud and so happy that my son has them. And now I'll show you some pictures of him in these outfits plus the jeans. I really hope you can take some of these tips and apply them to your own female sewing, because actually the techniques are the same for the collar and all those things. You rarely see flat felt seams in female garments, although sometimes it is, you know, instructed, and you're like, I don't want to do that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to get your free classic tee pattern from Love Notions. Today is the last day that you can get it for free. I mentioned it in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, you might miss out on a great pattern. So yeah, just go ahead and look at the previous video towards the end. You will find the information there to get your free pattern. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Happy sewing. Bye.